In this video today, Rand Paul and 3 other Republicans moved to cancel tariffs on Canada. There's mass panic after Trump's historic speech, and Jim Banks doubles down on his viral insult towards the fired federal worker. But let's start with what Rand Paul had to say.
But on the tariffs in particular, on the idea of trade is proportional to wealth. The last 70 years of international trade has been an exponential curve upwards, and the last 70 years of prosperity has been upwards also. We are richer because of trade with Canada, and so is Canada. Whenever you trade with somebody, when an individual buys somebody else's product, it's mutually beneficial or you wouldn't buy it. If the trade is voluntary, it's always beneficial. There is no Canada versus the U.S. The consumer wins when the price is the lowest price. Tariffs raise prices, and they're a bad idea for the economy.
So that's what Rand Paul had to say. And before I even respond to his statement, let me give you some context here. So there was a vote that took place right after Trump's historic speech, where the U.S. Senate passed a measure to terminate Trump's tariffs on Canada 51-48. And the Republicans that joined in were Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Rand Paul, and Mitch McConnell. Now, your favorite vice president also had something to say about this. Mike Pence posted this on X. The Trump tariff tax is the largest peacetime tax hike in U.S. history. These tariffs are nearly 10x the size of those imposed during the Trump-Pence administration and will cost American families over $3,500 per year. Check out Spoiling America's Golden Age below. And it's a little write-up of why this is not going to work.
Now, what happens, Senator Kaine, if Canada says, you know, we'll go to zero if you go to zero? We saw that with Israel. We're hearing words that maybe India is going to do that. What if this is a giant negotiation weapon and you're kind of going through the motions there on Capitol Hill?
Brett, my worry is it's much more than that, because if it was just a negotiation, the president has an avenue to negotiate. He negotiated the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, the update of NAFTA after 20 years. President Trump can claim credit for that. He got nearly 90 votes for it in the Senate in his first term. He should use the tools that he created to find a resolution of any disputes that are legitimate.
So this is where I absolutely disagree with Rand Paul, no question. Because at the end of the day, he's crying about this is going to hurt Americans. So you're going to forget what Joe Biden did over the past 4 years. That's number one. Number two, are you going to forget what happened since Bill Clinton? How all those manufacturing jobs have been shipped overseas and how we are literally depending on other countries to back up our economy here with goods and services. So I don't want to hear it from him about, oh, well, tariffs are bad. No, your guys' inability to manage the budget is what's bad. Now, let me continue with some more pathetic responses. The New York Times, I guess, is feeling sorry for Chinese factories due to these tariffs. Take a look.
The New York Times, this was so classic. It was a sob story they published about a factory owner in China. Okay, the factory is quieter than it should be. Orders are down this year as customers hesitate in the face of Trump's tariffs. The owner told the Times, "We're helpless. I don't know what the next quarter will be like." Maria.
Oh, my God.
Where were the sob stories about the American workers, millions upon millions of them, who were told to go learn, computer code when all their jobs were shipped overseas?
That's right. And how about a little empathy about the manufacturing sector in the United States that has been hollowed out as a result of corporations going to Mexico, going to China to produce stuff at much cheaper levels?
All right, so you guys are already aware the difference between Democrats and Republicans when it comes to tariffs. There's no question, right? But as it pertains to individuals on the right, we also see it differently. Rand Paul believes this is going to hurt people. I believe it actually will help people. And so ultimately, we need to allow President Trump, who's been given a mandate to change things for the better, give him the benefit of the doubt to see this through.
What I find so frustrating about the conversation around tariffs is that we all agree on the problem. We all agree that the deindustrialization of America led to the downward mobility of the American working class, deaths of despair, people working multiple jobs and not being able to afford the American dream. We all agree that it is deeply unfair for the American middle class to be bearing the burden of unfair tariffs from other countries. We all agree that it is great for the president to have leverage in order to demand reasonable things, like that country stop allowing fentanyl to murder 100,000 Americans every year, and that Mexico do its part to police its own border. And yet when somebody has the courage to show up and say to Wall Street, screw you, I am waging war. I am waging class warfare on behalf of the American working class. And you elites in Wall Street, you do what you need to do, because I'm not going to stop fighting for the American working class. Suddenly, everybody is sitting around going, oh no, the stock market. Yeah, the stock market looks like that because the rich are punishing Trump for siding with the neglected and humiliated American working class over them.
Now, she is not wrong whatsoever. In fact, this continues to be a problem in Washington. We all can agree on the problem here, but we just can't agree on the solution. But here's the difference in this scenario. Democrats don't have a solution. Republicans don't have a solution. All these people criticizing Trump, they don't have a solution. And when I say solution, it's something that they're actively implementing. Only President Trump has been actively implementing something to get jobs back. Yeah, so we already know how the media feels about it, especially CNN. But I don't think Caitlin Collins was ready for the Treasury Secretary when she tried to press him on these tariffs.
Yeah, and obviously with the cars, all foreign-made cars, imports are getting a 25% tariff starting at midnight. If half the cars coming into the United States are foreign-made, that's hard to turn around overnight, as you know. So what would you say to people in the auto industry who are worried about that timeline and how quickly that can shift?
Buy American.
And what about American-made cars and produced cars that are being made using foreign-made parts?
Well, I believe the USMCA is exempt.
Yeah, those that are compliant with this. Obviously, yes. Canada and Mexico are not on here.
All right. And here's the other thing that I would add. Fundamentally, we are going to disagree. That's just the bottom line. You're going to have people on the right that just won't see the positive side of tariffs, and especially people on the left. No question. But ultimately, the results will tell the story. Doesn't matter what I say, what the media says, what the stock market is saying today, but 6 months from now, a year from now, midterms when it rolls around, that will be the story. Okay, so now let's move to the second story here, and that is Congressman Jim Banks, all right, the senator. He recently told a fired federal worker that he was a clown for trying to bombard him while he was walking onto the elevator. And of course, that fired federal worker went where? Onto CNN to complain.
Were you surprised by Senator Banks's reaction? I mean, what did you think?
I was. First of all, I didn't ask him, what is he doing to help me get reinstated in my position? I wasn't asking, why did I get fired? What are you going to do to make sure me and other employees get their jobs? I was just asking, what are you doing about the social services that are being cut, specifically for people with disabilities? And his response was just that I deserve to get fired. So I think he didn't even answer my question. It wasn't really about that. And I still have not heard a response about what the plan is, as many of these staff get cut and the programs are potentially defunded.
Mac, I wonder what you make of his follow-up statement implying that you were in an overpaid position that should never have existed.
Well, my first question would be, does he even know about the work I was doing? Can he tell me that I was overpaid? Does he know the nature of the services that we were providing? And secondly, I think in response to the piece about left-wing activism, as a federal employee, much like all of other civil servants, I am nonpartisan.
All right. Now, I would love to know who he voted for, obviously, last year. And I'd like to see what his donation record is. And if anybody wants to track that down for us and put it in the comments, we would love that, because I don't believe him. OK, we're all human beings here. We live in America. Everybody has a little partisan in them. OK, we all have our bias. And that's just the reality. And by the way, why does he believe he is so special? Like in the private sector, they don't even get near the benefits people get in the federal government. But guess what? It's like they deliver more in the private sector than they've been delivering in the federal government. Now, here's what Jim Banks had to say in response.
Do you have any evidence that he's a left-wing activist? Do you have any idea of what kind of work he was doing at HHS?
Yeah, here's what I know, Jake. He's an instigator. He's in the hallways of the Senate office buildings every day, chasing down Republicans like me. and cheering for Democrats who walk through the hallway. So it doesn't take a whole lot here to deduce from that he is a left-wing activist. And what I have no tolerance for is anyone who believes they are entitled to a taxpayer-funded job. In this case, we know that he made between somewhere $85,000 to $100,000 a year for a job that he can't even explain what he was doing. It was a job that wasted taxpayer dollars. I have no sympathy for that, but I do care about those factory workers, those teachers, the police officers in Indiana who work hard every day and pay taxes to fund a job like that shouldn't belong in the federal government to begin with. So that was my point. I'm not going to shy away or back down or apologize for what I had to say yesterday. This was a calculated instigator, activist in the hallways of the Senate, and I don't have a lot of tolerance for it.
Okay, so you guys ready for the hypocrisy? Why haven't they interviewed Jasmine Crockett for slapping the phone and assaulting that reporter? Where's that? They didn't even comment on it. They didn't even report on it. So it's interesting that they dragged Jim Banks onto CNN to get him to respond. And I'm sure he's the guy that's not going to back down, right? He's going to stand up for what he believes in. And I respect that on both sides. I don't care what you support. If you truly believe in it, good for you.
Do you feel that way about every federal employee that's been laid off in all these massive job cuts that Doge and President Trump have been doing?
Look, this guy was chasing me and other Republican senators through the hallways. Of course not. My comments were directed at this fellow, who can't even explain what his job was. It was a woke job that wasted taxpayer dollars, and I'm thankful that President Trump eliminated that job to save tax dollars at a time when we have a $37 trillion national debt. That's what we're getting at. Cut wasteful spending, save those tax dollars. No hardworking family in Indiana deserves to pay the salary of someone like that.
I'm genuinely asking, how do you know what job he has or had?
He can't explain it. I've read online what he had to say about his job. It doesn't make sense. He couldn't even explain it on CNN earlier today when you had him on your station exactly what he did do, which is why he was a probationary short-term employee who lost his job because President Trump and Doge determined that it was a job that we didn't need in the federal government to begin with. That's the heart of the matter.
It's really that simple. And it begs the question, why are you harassing these elected officials because you were let go? You were on a probationary status. That's so interesting. I think you'd probably be spending your time looking for a new job, but that's going to be difficult for Democrats because they love to be the victim in every single situation. Now, this takes us to our third story. Because of that victimization mindset, the leaders of the Democratic Party are still refusing to condemn the violent attacks against Tesla. Why don't I show you a clip of that first? Here's AOC.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Hi, nice to see you. I want to ask you real quick, do you see a connection at all between the rhetoric we're hearing from Democrats on Musk and Tesla, connection to the violence at all, or what's happening on the streets, to Tesla dealerships?
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I've seen Republicans call me a communist and I hate this country. I mean, I don't know.
It's almost as if they are allergic to taking responsibility and being the bigger person in a particular situation. How hard is it to condemn the attacks against Tesla? Just even in that moment, she could have easily said, hey, listen, I don't like Elon Musk. I don't like his policies. I think he's destroying our country. But what I don't agree with is people attacking Tesla. You see, AOC, it's that easy. But I'm not shocked because even the leaders of the party, they can't even tell the truth about what's been happening over the past 2 weeks. Listen to what Hakeem Jeffries just said.
Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and the Republicans had a terrible week last week. It's continuing this week. But they had a terrible week last week. On Monday, the national security scandal breaks into the public domain, exposing the incompetence and the clownish nature of many of the highest-ranking national security professionals in the country, including the Secretary of Defense, who needs to resign or be fired, and we're going to stay on that case. That's on Monday. On Tuesday of last week, Republicans lose a special election in Pennsylvania in a district that Trump had just won by 15 points. On Wednesday, finally begins to break through that the Trump administration is dismantling the Social Security Administration in real time, which is going to impact the ability of hardworking Americans to access their earned Social Security benefits.
Guys, if you ever catch me talking that way, please call me out. All right. I can't take Hakeem Jeffries seriously when he does his whole pause and the thing with his hands and okay, listen, I'm just poking a little fun here. But here's the fact of the matter. All right. 1, the Democrats can't even condemn the violence against Tesla. 2, it's been Democrats that have had a tough 2 weeks. They're the ones sitting at a record low of an approval rating of 27%. 3, you got people with competing agendas and messages within the party. 4, you got people questioning Chuck Schumer's leadership and looking to primary him. I mean, 5, you guys are not in power whatsoever. 6, you got people writing books now exposing the Biden administration for the corruption we have been talking about for many, many years now. I mean, we can go on and on and on. I think you guys get my point. Now, here is a Democrat who can admit that the violence against Tesla is wrong.
And the thing is, I keep saying this and people don't like it. They get upset. You know, the Trump derangement syndrome is real.
Yeah.
You can hate someone so much that even if they do something
You're
right,
blind to it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know that? And you can like or dislike Elon, but you don't have any right blowing up someone's Tesla.
Right. Exactly.
You don't have any
breaking the
right.
law. Yeah.
I mean, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
You know, you don't have any right going in and destroying.
They drew a dick on his Tesla.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. By the way, that was
you understand what I'm saying?
a white dick too, small.
Small white dick.
But think about that.
Now, to be fair,
they should get 40 years.
But yeah, so that does happen.
That's the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
When you say, okay, I'm upset that you are doing Doge and you're closing down jobs, but you know what? You should close down Tesla. What about those people that work there?
Yeah, so the mayor is absolutely correct. It's not difficult to condemn the violence. Trump derangement syndrome has created a mental illness on the left, and that is just an unfortunate thing. Now, since we're on the subject of Mayor Eric Adams, I have a fourth story here for you because he got great news this morning. A federal judge sided with the Trump administration by dropping the charges against the mayor with prejudice. Let's hear more details on that.
So this is breaking news. Big deal here in New York and maybe across the country. In some places, Fox's alert, the historic federal corruption case against New York's sitting mayor Eric Adams has been dismissed with prejudice. That means the case cannot be brought back. Adams was charged with a 5-count indictment, including bribery and fraud back in September. He had pleaded not guilty to the charges. Bear in mind now, you got a big election coming up here. Andrew Cuomo is going to get in the race. Eric Adams is going to stay in it as well. And to Shannon Bream, our legal eagle in charge here, the judge said, you cannot hold this case over his head. All right, so the DOJ said, we want you to dismiss the charges. And in response, a lot of attorneys, they fled the coop and resigned. So this judge, is this the final word? Or could this be appealed?
No, I mean, he says that's it. So remember, this started under the Biden DOJ. When the Trump DOJ got involved, it was a different story. Eric Adams and his supporters had said, listen, the Biden administration started coming after me once I started standing up to them on these issues of immigration. So when the Trump administration said, we got to get rid of it, the judge said, give me some time to think about it. But yeah, he says it's gone for good.
Now, you guys already know how people see this. Democrats see this as Mayor Eric Adams sold us out in order to work with Trump to get off these charges. It was a quid pro quo. People on the right look at this as a weaponized Department of Justice. And so this was the ultimate outcome where things are fair. I think the bottom line here is if they were really going to convict him and get him out of his job as mayor, the governor would have stepped in and removed him. She never did. So clearly there wasn't much there for her to work on politically. Now, here is what he said once the announcement came out.
As you have heard, this case, the judge has dismissed it with prejudice, making it clear that it never can be brought back. Let me be clear. As I've said all along, this case should have never been brought. And I did nothing wrong. I'm now happy that our city can finally close the book on this and focus solely on the future of our great city.
All right, so now let's hear from you guys in the comment section below. What do you think about the reaction from Trump's historic speech? I know you probably watched it live. Maybe you've seen some clips already of what he said. Guys, it's exactly what we expected, reciprocal tariffs, and he didn't even go all the way. He actually called it discounted reciprocal tariffs. Let me know what you think about people's meltdown over this and the hypocrisy, of course. Put your answers in the comment section below. Now, speaking of hypocrisy, sit-ins suffered a huge blow last night when the former governor of Wisconsin had to fact-check them live in regards to how they continue to lie about Elon Musk. If you missed out on that exchange because it did go viral, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.